Welcome to Wednesdays with Willa. I am your host, Willa White, and this is my weekly podcast show that airs on Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern on my Facebook page, Willa White Medium. It's an opportunity for us to have a spiritual discussion regarding spiritualism, mediumship, healing, faith, family, or more. And it's a wonderful opportunity for us to really explore the world with various guests and topics. And this is year 7 of Wednesdays with Willa. So there are lots of archive videos of past shows that you can enjoy to your heart's content. Many people tell me that what they do is they binge watch it and in succession as they're enjoying the opportunity to educate themselves and to glory in the world of spirit. And I'm thrilled to have as a guest on my show today, Richard Stuttle. Hello, Richard.
Hello, Willa. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. I know we're excited about having you come to Lilydale this summer, and we'll talk a little bit later about some of your workshops that you'll be here for the 2024 season. So yes, welcome to the Wednesdays with Willa podcast.
Thank you very much.
And for those of you who don't know who Richard Stuttle is, he is a medium, a spirit art medium who is over in the United Kingdom, and he is a certificate holder with the Spiritualist National Union, and he has also studied at Arthur Findlay College and at the Harry Edwards Healing Sanctuary. I think it's wonderful that you're a certified energy healer with them, and that you've also been registered with the UK Healers and sitting on the board of trustees to help put that understanding of healing into the world. You're also a published author and founder of Caroline's Rainbow Foundation, which is a charity that you created after the tragic passing of your sister. And I think what's so wonderful is that you've been able to create that union between healing and mediumship and art, and help bring people's loved ones to them again through that art. So we'll discuss that today in our topic, which is the creative force of spirit. Oh, well, this is going to be great. We're going to go right on into the deep dive into Richard's style as a spirit artist. I have had other spirit artists on the show. So again, look back in the archive videos so you can see how they all work differently. And as I was talking with Richard before the show, my mother is a spirit artist. And of course, she started as a professional artist in the beginning, and then, with mediumship that evolved to bringing through the faces of people's loved ones in spirit. So I'm really interested to hear about how that evolved for you.
No, thank you. Thank you for such a wonderful introduction. You've made me sound fabulous, which is great. Yeah, it's all about healing. It really is, certainly with art, and certainly that foundation. And as your mother will I'm sure testify to, that the art is a journey and it is a process for your own self-healing. So when we're creating art, when we're tapping into that creative force, what we're really doing is bringing those emotions up, bringing those energies into the forefront. And from there, we are then able to understand a little bit more within the conscious mind, understand a little bit more what's going on. Spirit art, how it evolved for me, well, very similar again to your mother. I'm sure that I grew up with art. My father's an artist. My father's also a spirit artist. And he's been a tutor at the college for the Arthur Findlay College for 30 years. So it was a very natural process for me to be surrounded by art, surrounded by creativity when I was younger. Moving forward, it was really what the spirit world liked to do, or what in my case was to use the skills and the tools that you've already got. So they will use your creative ability. They will use your artistic talents, the same as if you had a talent for music or for philosophy or for public speaking. All of these things is what the spirit world taps into. And that is either with the inspired work that you're feeling the touch of spirit, or whether you're actually bringing through the mediumship and you're drawing the portraits. I suppose the way I got interested in the spirit art specifically was looking at people like Frank Lear, who was a fantastic illustrator in the UK. And then he started to draw portraits of loved ones who had passed. And I thought, what better evidence have you got than for a medium to look and to bring forward a portrait of somebody they've never met, bring forward accurate evidence about the person that they've never met, with the feeling and the emotion and the sentiment, and also that healing element. So all of that combined is that proof of life after death, because really that's what we're talking about as mediums, is that continuation of life, that comfort that we all need, that there's something greater out there, there's something greater that is connected to us.
Absolutely. And it is such a beautiful unifying experience for people when they're able to see that picture. They know that that's the image of their dear loved one. And in the process of it, most spirit artists, they're also having that conversation with spirit and sharing words. And, so you're having the visual experience that's playing out, but also the verbal experience and the energetic experience that all start to merge together to create and bring through the essence of spirit. So yes, very special.
It is. It's a wonderful opportunity to really bring through information that is more than just the verbal. As you say, you're getting visual information. You're also getting the color, and the color is very important, because for me, the spirit world see our language as color. So when we're channeling, we're bringing through that energy, we translate it, certainly as artists, back into color onto the canvas or onto the paper. And that color will have a resonance with somebody. So you can bring through the words, but controlling that energy and allowing them to just feel into that color and bring the sentiment and that healing through from the spirit through that color directly to them. Because we can say so much more in color without that kind of lumber of words or lumber of information that we're trying to stumble out in some brambling sometimes when we're working with the spirit. You can say it in one color, which is just wonderful.
And those of people who are interested in science, they know that each color has its own vibrational frequency. And so that in itself is information that you're using for the spirit art superhighway, as it were. Yeah. But there's the quality of light that also happens that affects that color. And that can also get conveyed in the meaning, the depth of meaning that's associated with that will help you to tune in more accurately as a medium, let alone a spirit, is correct? So
very much so, yeah.
It has a lot of uses. Even if someone doesn't know how to even draw stick figures well, there is the understanding that color can really help them to understand some of the symbols and deeper meanings of things that are behind it. So excellent point.
Very, very much so. And it's, it's a great learning tool for people who are training with their mediumship. It's such a wonderful opportunity, because you've got, if I give you a color and give you the color of blue, you've got, well, what it means to me potentially as the medium, what it means to you as the recipient, what it means to the spirit communicator, and what it means with the energy of this moment. So from that one color, we've got 4 directions we can go, and we haven't said a word. So it's such a wonderful thing that you can just feel into that color, and we're only talking about one shade of blue. If we start to then move the shades of blue, well, what is? And you're talking about light, you're talking about bringing in, diffusing that pigment, or alchemizing that healing energy, or alchemizing the communication that's coming through the medium or coming through the portrait or the artwork, and then conveying that to the recipient. So there's so much that we can do. It's such a wonderful tool.
Beautiful. I was hoping at this point you could focus in on how you work as a spirit artist, and starting with the basics of what art mediums that you use. I know a lot of spirit artists do use charcoal or acrylics or pastels. If you could explain to us what art mediums you have noticed you have a preference for.
So if I'm demonstrating, I will use pastels and charcoals, because they're very direct. And they've got great pigment, and you can create a portrait. We like to do it in about 10 to 12 minutes. So you've got a limited time, and you've got to bring through that evidence at the same time. So certainly for demonstrations, pastels are a great medium to use. If I'm working in the studio or working on larger scale paintings, more inspired art or whatever art that I'm creating, then I'd use, my preference is oil paint. Because I think you've a lot of freedom in the texture, and I love the smell. I love the smell of the linseed oil and the thinners, and to get covered in whether it be pastel or oil paint, I'm happy as long as I'm covered in paint or color, or pigment. So
we'll hose you down later.
Yeah, exactly that. It's everything. I've just covered all over. My shirts last generally 10 minutes, so it's good. It's good. And we were talking earlier about the color on the face, and just that the makeup I choose to put on mid demonstration, which is normally a slap of pastel pigment.
Yeah, so pastels, charcoal. My mother typically after a day of doing readings is covered, and I'll have to say, "Oh, Mom, you've got some all over your forehead or down your cheek," and it's
brilliant.
It's just how it is. And when you work with something, it's just that dustiness gets on the fingers, because there's so much seeing that goes on in the hands, in the feel of how that is being conveyed. Before we get into that part of that aspect of your particular work, just to really help people understand what size and what you use regular paper, like what size paper would you say you usually use for something?
Demonstrating, I use A1 because I need it large scale that people can see it in the audience. So it needs to be A1. If I'm doing private readings, I'll use A2. And I'll usually use tinted paper.
Oh, tinted paper.
Tinted paper generally for the private readings, but I have a selection of each, and then I would pick whatever I felt was the right one for that particular reading. Or the ones for the demonstrations, I generally use white paper. And there's a reason for that, because I can bring through very subtle colors and just that pigment, so you can see the color and the change of color. So it's almost starting from that blank canvas.
Yes, beautiful. So let's ease into, now you've got your materials all set and you're ready to open to do the spirit art. What happens for you?
Various things. So again, it's been aware of how the spirit world wants to work. Every communicator is unique, and for me, they're coming through with the spirit of who they are, that essence with who they are. And some of them, as you know from the mediumship, they come through with, this is how tall I was, this is what I did for a living, this is my name, and this is my haircut. And other people have no interest in all of that. They start talking about, well, I really love trains, and trains were my thing, and this was the thing. So it's very much been open to that. Demonstration I did the other night was, we were talking about healing. We had a few minutes of healing during the service, and I just felt a lady. And I felt her, she was interested in healing. She joined before the demonstration of the spirit art, and I just got a glimpse of her through the clairvoyance. So I could almost see an image of her in my mind's eye. So when it came to the demonstration, she was a very patient lady again. So she'd come in early, she was patient, she was interested in the healing. So I very much had that to work with as the first link. So I could start, I knew she wore glasses, I knew that this, and then as you start to draw and you start to bring little bits of evidence through, well, I knew she had blue eyes. And then, oh, well, I know that her hair was like this. So it kind of just builds up in that sense. But that was very much a flash of an image before, and then bringing through that and then working on it with the spirit communicator as I'm talking and giving the information about the lady. Other people, I use the opposite hand sometimes because I'm left-handed. So sometimes it's getting that energy on the paper, the same as what you get that spirit of that person. I feel there's a confident gentleman coming through. And then once I'm feeling that, I'm doing confident strokes on the paper. I'm putting color on. I'm feeling this is a bold color. I'm feeling red for this gentleman. So I've started almost that underpainting or that underdrawing. And sometimes it's about, I've got an earthy color, I'm using brown. Well, I know that this person then would have had a connection with nature. They would have loved gardening. So I'm very much inspired by that color or how they start off the link, which gives you some information about who they are as a person, about their spirit of themselves, not the soul, but the spirit of them, that essence of who they are. And it kind of works up like that. Some communicators are very cheeky, and they'll be very playful, and it's good fun. Others are very particular, and they make me focus on certain areas, and they go, oh no, you've not got the eyes right, or you've not got the chin right, you've not got. So they do tell you, and it kind of comes through just with either that inspired hand of just almost I'm talking. So there's a part of me that's linking in with the mediumship just to talk spontaneously from that connection, and the hand is almost moving independently, or I flicked back to the drawing where I'm then aware of what colors I'm using and what the communicator is talking about. If I'm drawing the mouth and I'm drawing the mouth open, well, this is a very talkative lady that I've got here. You know, if I've got someone who's got a cheeky smile, well, maybe they had dimples, or maybe they had a scar here, or maybe they had something around their facial features that was recognizable. So, you know, it goes with that kind of flick between I'm linking in with the spirit through the mediumship, and I'm also linking in with the drawing and the artwork of what the spirit communicator is inspiring me to draw, or inspiring the arm, and then pulling the information there from that visual kind of receptiveness of the information, but also what's the meaning of that color within that moment, because it's very different. Some aspects, the colors can mean one thing, and another communicator, it can mean something very different. So it's been open to that, I think, certainly. But the spirit world, for me, they would use the skills that I've trained to have in this life. So I'm interested in philosophy. I've spent a lot of time drawing. So they are the skills that they would then utilize in order to bring that information through. And the spirit world are very efficient with energy. So if they can do it in one line, or they can do it with one color, they will do. And they won't allow my mind to rabble on when I can say one word and give one color, and I can give more feeling and sentiment in that than if I talk for 10 minutes. Saying that I've just talked for 10 minutes, but do you know?
Well, you know, it's the analysis that usually takes longer than the actual process. And I'm glad that you're explaining this for us today and how that works for you, because there are different levels of a conversation that are unfolding. And as you're doing this, there's almost that sense of trust, that automatic pilot that you're allowing your hand to just go about, know how to drive this car while you have a conversation with someone in the car with you. So, you have this multi-experience that's going on, and you have to be able to multitask. And not all people or not all mediums would be able to work it in that particular way. But spirit artists, it's almost like a necessity to be able to do the balancing act for this. Now, just to kind of take it in another direction, what happens when you have more than one spirit, or do you try to say, no, only one spirit at a time, please?
No, because some people come together. And normally, it's the grandmother who comes in, who's very talkative, and the grandfather's in the background, just supporting. Or there's other people who have passed to the spirit, who want to just be remembered. So quite often there's a suggestion of somebody else within the portrait, or I would put a couple of birds in the sky, maybe, or put a few symbols around, or a few colors, and just make people aware. Well, I feel that I've got two birds in the sky. I feel that there's a couple of people there in the spirit world who would just like to be remembered, and I would give any information I got from them. So it's about that point of recognition, and certainly within the arts, there's a point of recognition, because if somebody steps forward for communication, it's our responsibility as mediums, and it's also something that we need to feel about the recipient and what they want. And if the grandfather and the grandmother were always together and spent 70, 60 years together in this life, they would certainly come together back from the spirit world, and they would be expected to.
Yes, and it actually gives further evidence that they have continued on. And some people are just very, very married. And that's how it is. So that usually will get conveyed. So just to kind of help people in the visual sense of this, it'll be one person's picture
Mm-hmm.
that is there on the paper, and then the others are just as suggestions. And the focus in the reading will be on one person, but the others can kind of be satellites.
Yeah, very much so. Or they would come, or if they're very energetic, they would come through on the next link. You know, they would be naughty. But it's generally I would do a portrait of one person and put in something that would symbolize their life on Earth. So if the flowers were relevant, if there was a gentleman that came through and he had an interest in boats, so I put the sailing boat in the background. You know, or put the rolling hills in, or walking with the dog, or something, you know, that is relevant to them. So although the main focus is a portrait, there would be, you know, maybe a stack of books if they were a reader. There would be a few artifacts or a bit of a landscape backdrop to the drawing, or just bringing through that color. So certainly we were talking about the healing. If the lady who comes through is also a healer, I might just put a bit of yellow and a bit of yellow on there, because yellow, and then I would talk about the yellow signifying that lust for knowledge, or that interest in healing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so when you have this, you know, with art, it's one of those things. How do you know when it's done? It's not just about a time's up when it comes to spirit necessarily, or with art, as you know. There's that sense of this is complete. What does that feel like for you?
Well, I mean, if I'm looking at my own art, then I take a quote from Da Vinci where he said, "An artwork is never finished; it's only abandoned."
That's right.
And that's very difficult because drawings can be overworked.
Yes, they can. Yes.
It's not for me. It is for the recipient, and it is for the spirit communicator. So I might want to, and I certainly have done in the past, and I try very hard not to now, is I want to make it perfect. And it is not my art, and it is not for me. It is for what the recipient needs within the healing. It's what they need for the flow of that energy, and it's what the spirit communicator wants to convey. And this is a really important point, because it's not something that I would normally do. It's not a way that I would normally work. And what's really beautiful about that, and certainly for some of the private reading stuff and the auragraphs and the other work that I do, I wouldn't be able to create that work from my own imagination. It is not coming from me. And that for me is a confirmation that I am working in the right space within the energy, without that unconscious bias of my own mind coming in, trying to turn it into something that is forced, or something that my mind wants to make it, rather than what the spirit wants to convey. So it's very much on an energetic level. When I feel that the recipient has received what the spirit communicator wants to say, it's almost when you come to the message at the end and you're giving that final flick or that final color, and this means this, and I would like to leave you with that. And the danger is then going back in to go, oh, well, the eyes aren't quite right, or this isn't quite right. And it's not for me to do, because what is given from that inspiration, and when you're working within the energy, and that only happens during the communication, when you're working within that energy, the spirit world are enabled, and they are allowed to allow that energy to flow through the art, through the drawing, and through the mediumship. And once that is finished, that is finished. That is their communication. We are just the humble channel, or the humble facilitator, to hold space for the art, and then to hold space for the spirit, and to hold space for the recipient.
Mm-hmm. I think that the underpinnings that this is the sacred joy of communication that you're trying to help transpire. It's different from trying to do, let's say, a police sketch of someone's face.
Yeah.
You know, you're not necessarily relying on spirit to say all the essence, all the bits and pieces of a person's face. You're getting that image. You're getting that flash of an image. So you know that's where your starting place is. And then eventually just like in this essence, it's like a police sketch where then they'll say, well, no, that's a little too wide. Now you have to narrow this, you know, lengthen the nose, but once you have it, then there is a different connection that starts to happen, because the individual that's the recipient of the spirit message, of the spirit reading, really sees their loved one. So let's lean into that experience for the client, for the recipient, what it's like to watch them have this experience with the art you've just created.
It's so important to check in with what the recipient's feeling, and not to overload them, not to, you know, you'll be drawing away for 20 minutes, turn around and they're in tears. I mean, it's you're not controlling the flow of the energy. It's about understanding what the recipient needs and what the spirit world would like to communicate, and moderating or just open to that flow of energy, without your mind coming in. I suppose that a nice other phrase is what Bernini said. He was looking for a speaking likeness when he did his sculptures. So when we're not speaking and we're posing for a photograph and we're doing that, we are aware of the facade. We are aware of what we look like. Get my best side. Make sure I've got the light. Make sure I'm smiling. Ting, all of that stuff. But when you start to talk, you forget about all of that.
Yes.
And that's really what we're looking for with the spirit communication and the spirit portraits. We're looking for that speaking likeness, that essence, that feeling of the person, that emotional content within that portrait someone can say, yes, that is them. And there's got to be a reasonable likeness. Otherwise, why are we doing it? Of course. So you've got to trust that the spirit world is saying, well, look, you've drawn thousands of eyes over the years. You've drawn thousands of noses, thousands of mouths. This is the ones that I want you to use for this portrait. These are mine. So you've got to trust that part. But then when you go past that and you've got that reasonable likeness, you're actually looking for the essence of that person. That cheeky little smile, or that glint within the eye, or that real connection with them when they were remembered, those special memories. And I know we touched on it before we came alive, that it was sometimes the spirit world is so, well, they're always incredibly intelligent and clever, but it's mind-blowing. But sometimes they'll bring through portraits of people that were younger than when they passed. They bring them through in their prime. Maybe the recipient spent time with them when they were a child. So the memories and the main bulk of that memories and where the healing needs to be is around that age of when maybe the recipient was in their early teens or their younger years. And then the grandparents or the parents were there spending time. And that portrait then is matched to a photograph. And it amazes me every time when I've done a portrait and someone shows me a photograph and it's the same, or that photograph is out on the mantelpiece or on the sideboard at home. And, you know, it's mind blowing in that. And you've just got to trust that I'm doing my job and we're doing the work of the spirit world and what they want to do. But it's very much down to the uniqueness of what the spirit communicator wants. And some people want to come through in their younger years where they had that vitality for life, that love for life, because that may be what the recipient needs at that time. Or they may come through in their older years when they had the wisdom about their life, their wisdom about what they did. And that might be what the recipient needs, a little bit of wisdom within their life, because it's about what they need now. Why are the spirit world? Why is this communicator coming? Well, they want to show that their presence. They want to show that there's eternal life. But they're also here to help, to show that they're around, to show, well, what is the message? What is the recipient? What do they need? How can they help from the spirit? How can they bring love and healing and something that is needed at this time for that person?
It's such a beautiful and powerful connection that can happen for people. And when they have that message, then they really know that this spirit loved one is still invested in their lives, in the here and the now. They haven't left them and abandoned them. Not that they're around 24/7, because no one's that interesting. I tell people, no.
They've probably got other work to do in the spirit world.
Exactly. That's why they edit reality TV. So they'll come through at important moments, or when they can get through, and it's so valuable when that communication can happen through a medium, because then they have this external confirmation that what they had felt from their loved one in spirit, they may have felt the approach or the presence or the feeling of them, but now in the communication with the medium, it amplifies, and they're truly feeling that, and then they can carry that forward in their lives. So absolutely a valuable experience. Now, when you're evolving within the spirit art, and people have produced the photo later on, and they said, "Hey, look, it looks the same. Oh my goodness, wow, this is so great." And do you ever have the effect of they change a little bit, or somebody says, "This is different than when you first made this. It's been under glass." A lot of times, the art that my mother makes, the spirit art, people then frame it, put it under glass, and so nobody's been able to smudge or change to it. Have there been any instances where people have shared with you that there's been a change to the art after it's done?
I mean, you're touching on the precipitated art there a little bit.
A little bit.
Which is interesting, and it's not something, because I'm obviously coming to Lilydale. I'm researching about the Bang sisters and the Campbell brothers, and that kind of ilk, and so it's really interesting. I think what has happened is that different elements of the artwork will come forward for the recipient. So maybe the blues stand out more because that's what the person needs at that time, or the eyes stand out more because they're looking at something or a different perspective on life. So there's a nice thing around noticing what comes up within the artwork, because it's generally is created uniquely from the spirit for that person, and they would notice different things in it at different times. So whether that be color, whether that be, the birds in the sky, they seem to be shouting out this morning, and then I could hear the bird song outside.
Sure.
And so there's links there, and there's things, and I feel it's something around their own understanding of the energy and their own understanding of the power that they have as an individual. So very much the other day on a demonstration, this lady was talking about this gentleman with her daughter, and then he came through that evening. And so it's created a link, and they're understanding the power of their own thoughts. They're understanding what comes up within their own psyche and what they generally see in front of themselves and what jumps out to them. It's you're walking down the street, what do you notice? What comes up? Or you're looking in the wardrobe, what color am I going to wear today? And it's the same with the art. It's something that comes out and jumps out that, I've never noticed that before. I didn't see that in the background. So there's certainly been incidences of like that. I don't know, because I don't see the art anymore. After it's gone, it's gone.
And I wanted to also, I know we kind of touched a little bit on it, but when you're engaged in your spirit art, do you feel that it's more channeled or inspired?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's again, I think when you can look at that flick of I'm working with the mediumship, I'm not thinking about the art. I'm not focusing on the portrait. And certainly when that first person comes through, and if I start with the opposite hand, and sometimes I'll just start scribbling on the paper, and there's a face that emerges. And that's not me, because I'm not even looking at what I'm doing. There is something there and you feel it a little bit in the hand, and it's something that with the right hand is more noticeable because it's not my dominant hand. It's not something that I'm thinking, but the left hand, I have a lot more dexterity within the way I work, because I'm predominantly left-handed. So I would notice that. So there's probably something within my mind that kicks in. So I would say there's an element of that, but that's when I flick and I'm talking and giving the mediumship and that flow of energy directly, and just allowing that color to go. Or I'll do something almost, I think that there's a piece where many mediums, when they're working on the platform, they take on the mannerisms of the person. Or I feel there was art, I feel this. And that to me is something that it's affecting the body. And it's the same kind of essence with the art, that sometimes I'll use different strokes, or I'll use quick strokes, or it'll be slow, because I'm aware that I'm working on the energy field of the recipient. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And my mother, she's doing charcoal. It's flat on the paper, and she allows that to pass over first with her eyes closed, and then she opens them, and there it is. So she just wants to bring it out more, and there it evolves. So it is for her, and I think for a lot of spirit artists, it's the blend between the channeled and the inspired, because you're having to cultivate, again, as we said, that multitasking that's going on. But there's such a giving over. I call it, I tell my mediumship students, it's like leaping off the cliff. And you have to trust that Spirit's going to catch you. There's such an amount of trust that happens. And I would say, especially with art too, because you don't know what's going to be created. It's part of that creative force of spirit, as we've been discussing. You just don't know. And that's part of the fun, isn't it?
That's the excitement. I mean, there's not many professions where you would stand up on a platform with an empty easel or with nothing for the mediums. You have no idea what you're going to say. You have no idea who you're going to talk to. You have no idea what you're going to do. You've just got to trust that you've already done the work. Yes. And that you're connected to the spirit. And just the fact that you are stepping up on the platform and you are doing that is giving the spirit world that confidence that you have the confidence to do that, and that trust and belief within them. And again, it could be an abstract piece. Look at Picasso's work. You know, you knew some of the subjects that he was painting, but he was using cubism.
That's right.
You know, you look at the Impressionists. You could see the view that they were painting, but it's not a true representation of it. So you don't necessarily need to bring anything through than just one color. Look at Rothko's work. You know, just big panels of color. But they're so impactful, and there's so much in there. There's so much depth in there, and you know what he's talking about. You know what he's trying to convey. So it certainly is. It's about trust in the spirit, and it's about trusting your own abilities and your own connection, allowing that freedom of mind for your mind to step aside, for the inhibitions, for the judgment, for the ego, all of those things that happen in everyday life, just to move those aside slightly and trust within the spirit. But you've still got to do the work. You've got to know what this feels like. You've got to know that emotion. And, you know, many of the exercises we do, I call it expanding your spiritual toolbox. So you're feeling what this is like. You're understanding what that color means. But you've got to learn to draw. There's a difference between trusting the spirit and the skills within this life. If you can't draw, the spirit world can't use that skill because you don't have it. So there's a responsibility for you as a medium or a spirit artist or for anybody to do the work.
That's right. It has to be cultivated. It's something that has to, I like to use two different words with that: cultivation and calibration. So you're wanting to cultivate those skills, these naturally occurring gifts, but to move them into a true skill that you can depend upon and understand is very, very valuable. And to calibrate your energy correctly makes all the difference in the world. You know, as Harry Edwards says, it's really important for a medium to be of even mind in order to do the work. And that way when they feel the impressions of others around them, their personalities, the other force that's there, that they can still hold themselves and know who they are and step into someone's shoes for just a little while.
Mm.
But as you said, it was really very much a spontaneous occurrence that's happening, that you do have to hold your own, but step into confidence and trust with spirit. It's really beautiful. I'd just like to touch on, because you have your father who is also a spirit artist. Can you speak to that experience of having that shared profession, if you will, that shared understanding of connection with spirit?
I think that you're growing up. Obviously, I steered different directions for many years, and I think mediumship and working with the spirit is a calling. And it's when that right time is for you. I needed to go off and have a lot of life experience before I had that breadth and that bandwidth to work as I needed to work with the spirit. But when I was younger, I was never told anything was wrong. So if I wanted to draw crazy things, or I was feeling certain things, I was never told there was anything wrong with it. It was just, oh, well, what is that experience? What is that? What is this? What is that? We were talking the other day, because he's like your mother is in his 80s now. And he said it would be really lovely to demonstrate together. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to do that, because he's contemplating retirement at 85. So it's such a privilege, and it's been a privilege. We've spent a lot of time in nature. We've spent a lot of time painting, and a lot of time hanging out together. So he enjoys the conversations and going down the different rabbit holes of topics and talking about art. Art has been his life, and it's so important that that we help nurture that, because he was of the generation that knew people like Coral Polge, like Gordon Higginson, like Albert Best, like Eric Hatton, all these people who were pioneers in the UK, who worked at the Arthur Findlay College and was surrounded and worked very hard for the Spiritualist National Union. He was in touch with us, so just to be in his presence is a real privilege, and to hear some of the stories and the things and experiences he's had. I also feel there's a bit of a responsibility for me that he's taken it where he did within that 30-year experience, and now it's my turn to see where I can take it in the next 30 years. So it's a really special connection we have. And he said, I'd love to be here in 30 years to see what you're doing. So,
Yes.
so that'd be nice. So
sure. I think it's beautiful that you've been able to move into more appreciation about that over time. That's what I'm hearing from you, this deep appreciation and the bond that you've been able to share. And I can just envision you all in your plein air experience, enjoying your conversations and the gambit of that. And does he work similarly to you in terms of the spirit art with the pastels and the charcoal and that sort of thing? So I'm using some of his methods then.
Yeah, I've very much taken on his just his teaching methods and his way of working. Obviously, I've been a student of his for many years, like many other people. But then it's a case of making that my own and developing my own way, and not really. I think it's a really important point. Certainly when you're looking to go into teaching or you're teaching, you can't teach somebody else's work. You can't work the same way as somebody else because you don't understand it. So there's a big difference for me when you hear somebody who is reading a lecture written by somebody else or teaching an exercise done by somebody else, because there's no feeling. They only understand it on the mental level. They don't feel it on the emotional level. They don't feel it in the energy or in the physicality. So I'm very much aware that it's taking all these little pieces that resonate with me from all kinds of different people, but then waiting till that cascades through my system to then feeling that inspiration from spirit of how am I going to get this information across, or what does the spirit world want me to do with this information. So there's some exercises that there's an element of his, but then it's really gone off in a different direction for the way that I work and the way that I do it. And again, the portraits, there's an element of his, and he's a fantastic draftsman. So his portraits are bang on. And he is very keen on that work around learn to draw, the discipline of the work, and that humble nature of it's not us, it's the spirit. You know, we do the work here, but as mediums, it's not us who's bringing forward this information. We are the humble messenger and that channel for the spirit world. So those sort of core values of what we're doing, I think I've certainly got from him, and certainly got from the years and years I've been very lucky to spend with people like him and other tutors around the college and around the UK. To really understand, well, the responsibility of being a medium. It's not just I want to get in the platform and wow people with evidence. It's far from that. Certainly for me, it's more about that emotional connection and bringing that healing and love. And if we can do that through art, we can do that through creativity, then we can help people. And there's very much times where, you know, you go to see an exhibition, or I've put on exhibitions with my artwork, and I try to feel it in the sense of it's a healing experience for people. So we can touch a lot of people with art and creativity.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. It's such a unique and beautiful expression of spirit. And we do weave what we've learned from other people. It kind of becomes the tapestry of things. But then, as you said, you have to make it uniquely your own. Otherwise, it just is flat energy.
Yeah. Well, you'll get the bounce. It'll hit you, and you'll end up being absolutely shattered because you can't process the energy of your students. You can't hold space for that community. You can't stand on the platform and hold space for the congregation or the church or wherever you're demonstrating, because you don't have the capability to do that. You need to develop that within you, and you need to be able to understand how that energy sits within you. So that's why if you don't understand that, you end up being very depleted. Certainly for me, in my, you know, from the way that I've sort of been taught and worked in the past.
And yes, it's important to be understanding of the energetic responsibilities in order to do the work. Some people think, I can go ahead and put my shingle out. And it's like, oh, no. You have no idea. You really need to get things squared away, because you're going to be working with the public. You need to be able to maintain your energy. You're going to have to buffer and make sure that you really supported yourself in the right ways so that you can optimize and really have a quality experience with the client, with spirit, and with students, and be able to unify those productively. So yes, I hear you loud and clear about that. It's such an important element that some people miss, and then they have to kind of go back and get those foundations again. It's really important to have those underpinnings, because it's not about quantity. It's always about the quality, and wanting to give 100% in the areas of life that you're addressing in that particular moment. And when you're working with spirit, you have to be there. You have to be fully present in that moment of now, and be able to give over to the inspiration. That's beautiful.
Yeah, brilliant. I completely agree. Yeah, fantastic.
So I wanted to give you an opportunity to share a bit about your summer workshops. You're coming here to Lilydale for the 2024 summer season. And for those of you who are not familiar with Lilydale, it's a very special place. It's been around for over 140 years, offering wonderful summer programs. It's usually a 10-week summer season, and there are daily spirit message events and healing events and lectures, and also wonderful workshop presenters that come from all over the world to present workshops here in Lilydale. And it's an opportunity for you to learn and grow and be. And Richard, you're going to be here, it looks like July 29th is your first workshop. And then looks like you go until August 2nd. So you got a workshop every day.
Yeah. Well, if you're coming, you may as well work. Well, firstly, I am so excited. It's going to be a real privilege, and certainly very humbling to be asked to come over and to facilitate these workshops. I'm working with a lady called Penny Hayward, who is Australian born but lived in the UK, and we've got a lovely working relationship where we hold our own space and we dem together with the spirit art. But it's very, well, for me, it was really nice to find somebody who I could turn around and draw, and I had complete confidence in what she was saying, and we held the energy really nicely together. Mm-hmm. So we bounce off each other and we work really well. So it's a real privilege for me to work with Penny. So
are you saying you tag team? Are you saying you tag team and do the same message?
Yeah. So it's, which is wonderful. So I'll start the drawing. We'll start the link. We'll have a bit of back and forth with some information. And what's really nice is she gets different information to me. Because of her skill set, because of her spiritual toolbox, because of what she brings to it. So between the two of us, how it's worked in the past is we've just got this lovely energy where she can bring her influence and her healing and be her channel, and I can be mine. And then we create this lovely harmonious sort of bubble of energy, or this room. Well, that's how it feels to me anyway. It's a real privilege to work with Penny. So we're coming over. We are very excited to be coming over. And there's 4 days of workshops, which is really nice. A couple of evening sessions as well. So Penny and I will do some demming. We'll do some links, but also to delve into the creativity, to look at art and healing and the creative aspects to your own self-healing. But also for the healing within the room or within the group environment. Certainly looking at the spirit art, the portraits, that kind of things, those kind of altered states and creativity as well. So each day is focused on a different element, but overall the 4 days will give you a little bit of everything that would then help hopefully you to incorporate creativity, color, and healing into your mediumship. It's around adding to your skill set or adding to your toolbox. For people who are already working with the spirit art and working with creativity, again, there's something in there that would maybe help them look at it from a different angle, look at the different uses of color, look at the different symbology that we can bring in with the creativity. So we've got the 4 days of workshops. I could talk about them because they're going to be so much fun. But then, you know, we're working with the spirit. And then on the Friday, I think we've got the dem in the evening, or demonstration, which will be Penny and I doing the spirit art, the mediumship, and bringing the loved ones through.
Beautiful. And I've linked that in the post, so people can go ahead and find the information to go ahead and purchase their tickets now for those events. You could go to all 4 days if you wanted to. And so
all 4 days. That's
right. Richard's going to be there. and Penny will too. And just to mention, I do have an opportunity. Penny's going to be my guest coming up too. So you'll get to know Penny Hayward before she comes this summer as well. So look for that episode to air within the next month or so you can enjoy getting to know her before she comes, and so that you can really get a gauge on this duo from the United Kingdom that's going to take Lilydale by storm, right?
Well, we're privileged to be part of it, and I'm looking forward to coming over and experiencing all of you. I want to attend some of your workshops. The way that you work sounds beautiful, so I want to come and be your student for a while.
Aw, sweet. Very sweet. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming on the show today to share about the creative force of spirit and how your spirit art has evolved and what you are going to be teaching people this summer here in Lilydale. So thank you for being here today, everyone. And next week, you need to come back for more, because I'll have another great guest. I'll have Jacob Cooper on, and he'll be talking about his near-death experience. He'll be here this summer as well to teach a workshop. So we'll get into all of that next week and other great episodes to come as we get ready for the 2024 Lilydale summer season. And you can visit the lilydaleassembly.org website to find out all about the events and also to get signed up for workshops. For more about Richard Stuttle, you can go to richardstuttle.com. All right. Thank you again for being here today, and many blessings to everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.